All right, welcome back to the Onebar and Lupagus show. I'm Onebar with Lupagus, and we got Walter from WalterFootball.com joining us. I think it's fair that we can just call you Walt now. Is that
that works.
We there?
Yeah, we can just do that. Yeah,
we did it. We
Right,
did
Walt.
it. We
Yeah,
made
that
it.
works.
We made
Well,
it to Walt. Walter, how you been, man? Happy draft
timer.
season.
I can't believe we're 9 days away from the draft. It feels surreal. It's just like if I was saying to you guys before we started recording, it feels like yesterday we were just on to talk about the 2024 NFL draft. Yeah, 9 days. I don't know. Like I feel so unprepared. So I have to somehow get everything done in 9 days. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but
You can do it.
That's how it is. Yeah. Thanks for believing me.
You
You got this, man. You got this.
Yeah,
We're going to talk
100%.
draft. We're going to talk some Vikings. But if you had to guess, how many mock drafts do you think you've done since August until now?
Well, I've done it one every week, so I guess whatever how many weeks that is. So like I would say 30, 35, 39, whatever it is.
Nice.
Yeah, and we'll be doing one every day leading up to the draft, so we'll be in the 40s. Actually, real quick, I got once Woody Page, who's he's on Around the Horn, or I guess he used to be. He made fun of me one time in the Denver Post, saying because I published like a history of all my mock drafts leading into 2012. And he called me. I can't remember if it was a mushroom in dank darkness or dark dankness, but he called me that in the Denver Post, and I was like, that's so funny. Like I'm just doing my job, and he's like calling me a mushroom for doing my job. So
you can call Page a lot of things.
I
don't
don't
say
get
that. I mean,
Yeah.
free publicity.
Walter, before you ask you questions about the draft this year, I do want to ask you, like, when you're doing those mock drafts every week, do you intentionally do some stuff different just to see how it looks, or do you always just go with what you're hearing, what you're feeling? Like, I mean, what do you do to make that different every week?
sometimes, like I will like experiment sometimes, but there are certain picks where like I really believe in this one, so I'm just gonna keep it. And even like I sometimes think like, yeah, maybe I should experiment, but I'm like, no, I really think that this is gonna happen. So it really depends on the pick. I try to mix up a little bit. Sometimes like I'll say like, from the Super Bowl to the combine, like nothing really changes. There are no games. There's nothing. There's no workouts or anything. So you kind of have to like dig a little deep to like spice it up a little bit. But usually there's stuff that changes, during the season. There are games plus, the NFL games as well. So there are multiple fronts there. And then now you have the pro day workouts, you have the visits, and then you have the combine before that. So like sometimes you don't really have to experiment, but there are a couple weeks where you have to do that.
Yeah. Well, I scoped out your latest mock. I don't know. Did you post it Sunday or Monday? When do you post them?
I just posted today. It's every Tuesday usually, so I have my new one today.
All right. Well, I watched. I checked out your old one then because I looked at it yesterday. So maybe it's still valid. But a couple names: Will Johnson and Calvin Banks. You had at least in your previous mock, you had them well gone before the Minnesota Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any chance they fall to 24? Will Johnson injuries? Come on, give us some hope here.
If you ask Grok, which I actually wanted to see what Grok would put out for a mock draft. You could get not Will Johnson, but Willie Johnson. They actually had like two. They had Will Johnson and Willie Johnson in the same first round. Like, okay,
so Willie Johnson.
That's kind of weird.
You don't want Willie.
No, definitely not. So no, I'm pretty confident Will Johnson is going to go early. I think definitely top 16. Like I know there's one team in the teens that's like dying to get him. So I think that to get Will Johnson, you have to trade up. And I think he can go as high as 6 to the Raiders, which I have in my mock draft. And that's based on some data from Charlie, some intel from Charlie. So unless he tells me otherwise, Charlie Campbell, senior NFL draft analyst. As long as that doesn't change, Will Johnson's going to remain at 6 in my mock. Banks, on the other hand, could fall. I had him sliding a little bit, going down to 13 to Miami. But, he's one of those guys who can go mid-teens, late teens. He could fall a little bit. I mean, it happens every year. Like guys fall inexplicably, and then we find out why. Jawan Taylor comes to mind. Remember him? Like he was supposed to go 9th overall, and he went to the second round. So guys can fall all the time. So I think there's definitely a better chance Banks falls, and I'd say like slightly less than 50-50. But I think there's a realistic chance you guys can get him. Will Johnson, on the other hand, I'd be surprised if he gets to 24.
Wow. I want to ask you this. Last year, it was like, 15 picks before a defensive player was taken. Was that a fluke last year, or is that a trend that we're going to see just the way the NFL is now, basically being heavy on the offensive side of the ball?
I think it was a fluke. I mean, you had so many quarterbacks that class. You had 6 quarterbacks go. So, I mean, that was 6 of the top 15 picks there, or 14 picks. So, it's this class is completely different. Like, there are not 6 quarterbacks going to go. Like, they're not even like 3 quarterbacks who are going to go in the first round in all likelihood. It's probably going to be 2 or maybe even 1. If you ask some people, I think Shedeur Sanders is viewed as a second-round prospect by some. But you're going to see 1 quarterback, and the receiving talent isn't there either. You have Tetero and McMillan, who I would say would probably be behind Rome Odunze if you put him in last year's draft. So you had like this great receiving talent as well. So you had like these 2 major strengths of positions in the 2024 NFL draft. Whereas this year, you just don't have that. So I think, you're going to see it right away. I don't know how you characterize Travis Hunter, but if you think he's a corner, then like 2 of the first 3 are going to be defensive players. So it's just going to swing back the other way.
Nice.
Shedeur Sanders, where'd you have him in this week's? Because last week, I think you had him in the second round.
So, yeah, I put him in the second round at 33 to Cleveland, but I noted that I thought that the Browns might trade up for him into the 20s. It's kind of like what they did in 2007, because they had the 3rd pick then, and everyone thought they're going to take Brady Quinn, and they ended up taking Joe Thomas, and they ended up with Brady Quinn because they traded back into the end of the first round. And I thought that could happen again. When I sent my mock draft to a scout on an NFC team a couple of months ago, like during the combine, and he replied with 7 words. He said, "Get Shedeur out of the first round." And I was like, really? Like, I like Shedeur Sanders as a prospect. I'm not like in love with him. I think Cam Moore's better. And he said, no, he's like, I don't have him in the first round. No other scouts I talked to have him in the first round.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, that's kind of surprising. And I argued, I'm like, what? Well, it takes only one team to fall in love, right? The Steelers fell in love with Kenny Pickett, really, because he only went to Pitt. It's kind of weird to take a player for that reason. But, and he was like, yeah, that's true. It could take one team to fall in love with the prospect. Then in this mock version, I had him going 21 to the Steelers. And it was because of something he said. And I don't know, I might be misled here, but he said something interesting. He said that if a team needs to get him, they have to move in front of the Steelers at 21. And I found that interesting for 2 reasons. One, obviously, he's saying that his visit to Pittsburgh went well, which, he could just be hyping himself up. Like that could be the case. And I wouldn't blame him for doing that. The second thing I thought was interesting was that he's not even like talking about the top 5 anymore. Like, a couple months ago, everyone was talking about like Shedeur top 5, Cleveland 2, Giants 3, maybe sneaks out of the top 5 because the Jets at 7. Like, now he's not even talking about that. So he's kind of like admitting that he's not a top 5 prospect anymore. So he even expects himself to tumble in the draft. But I think he'll ultimately go in the 20s at some point, whether it's to the Steelers, maybe the Giants trade up, maybe the Browns, maybe the Jets trade up. So I think one of those teams will do it.
So the Vikings at 24 could be a very favorable spot to trade up and grab them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you guys could. I actually changed my pick for the Vikings. I don't know if you're going to ask me about that, but I had them taking Derek Harmon, I believe, in my previous version, and I moved Harmon up to 16. I've heard some interest about him in the teens, but I moved Malachi Starks back down to the Vikings at 24. Kind of a successor to Harrison Smith, but I feel like you guys are in a position where I love the Vikings this year, by the way. It's not draft talk, but I bet the Vikings to win the Super Bowl 40-1. I think you guys have a top 3 roster in the NFL. If you take out quarterback, just remove that position, I think you guys might even have the best roster in the NFL. McCarthy's a question mark, but this is Kevin O'Connell's guy. Like he's a handpicked guy. He took him. So, and we saw what he did with Sam Darnold last year. So I really like you. I really love you guys this year. And I think that, like, given that your roster is so loaded and you don't really have that many weaknesses, like you could trade down easily, accumulate a lot of picks. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Well, we're gonna clip that part and put it as a short, so just so you know,
get me hot and bothered, man. This is beautiful. Get this season started.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's talk another specific prospect, Gray Zabel. We had a draft analyst on last week. He said he had a 3rd round grade on him. You see him in the 1st round a lot. Where do you have him ranked, and where do you see him coming off the board?
Yeah, I think he's going to be like I have him ranked. I have him tiers. Like I don't have like numbers specifically. I have him like in my 4th tier, which is generally like picks 20 to 35. So I think he's going to go in the first round. Daniel Jeremiah on NFL Network actually said he was a first round lock because he can play every position. You know, he's projected to be more of a center guard, but he can also play tackle too. So you can put him anywhere. I think he could go as high as 13 to Miami. Like the Dolphins have so many issues on the offensive line. They already had guard and center just as glaring weaknesses. And then Terran Armstead retired. So they really have to address the offensive line. And it makes sense to get a guy like Zabel if the other linemen are off the board. So he can go that high. And just something else that indicates he's going to go in the first round. The odds say that he's minus 1,000 to go in the first round. So for those of you who don't know, that means like to win this bet, you have to bet $1,000 to win 100. Like that. That's how like short these odds are for Zabel. So
I'll take it.
I mean, it seems to indicate that he's definitely going to go in the first round. I currently have him going to the Chiefs, but he could definitely go earlier.
Nice. All right, you got Benjamin Morrison going before Barron out of Texas. Do you love Morrison or do you hate Barron?
Barron, well, I don't like. The issue with Morrison is his injury. I think he'd go much higher if it wasn't for the hip injury. So there's that issue. With Barron, it's a little difficult. I tried to slot him earlier, and I think ultimately we'll have him earlier. I just feel like, he's more of a slot corner guy, so it's like kind of specific to what a team needs. But I've been trying to put the cornerbacks earlier. I know there's more optimism on Barron and also Trey Amos, and also Maxwell Harrison. So I've been trying to slot these guys, but it's tough. It's really tough to find areas to put them in. It kind of reminds me of the tight ends too. Like I wanted to put Tyler Warren earlier. I have him 18 to Seattle. I'm like, there's like no team in the teams that could take him except for Indianapolis, and I know that they like Booker, the guard from Alabama. So it's one of those things where like just because I have him later doesn't mean I don't like him. I do like Barron as a prospect, but it's just more of trying to find a good fit for him.
All right, D tackle's been a position we've been talking about since January of Kenny Grant, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon. Which one of those three is an immediate impact player as a rookie?
No, I think Grant. I think that he's a big guy. He can be a run stuffer, but he also can get to the quarterback, and that's pretty rare. Generally, you see the kind of like nose tackles fall in the draft, but he's one of those guys where I think it's going to be an exception. And I think he's going to go earlier. It's kind of like a BJ Raji kind of guy where, if he couldn't get to the quarterback as well as he could have, like he definitely would have fallen out of the first round. But I think you're going to see him go probably in the top 15, I would say. I think the Niners at 11 is a pretty sweet spot for him. San Francisco has like nothing at defensive tackle. And if Mason Graham's off the board, then I think that's a good spot for him. And I heard that from Charlie Campbell, he reported that some teams have Grant over Graham. It's pretty interesting from that angle. So I would say he is the top of the leaderboard in that category.
First rounders, whether you're in on them or not, but which one of these guys to you just screams bust?
Of the guys you've just listed or overall?
Anybody that you think will go in round one, who's got the biggest bust potential?
Oh, I think Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher from A&M. He has such great athleticism, and I think that some defensive coordinator is just going to salivate over him. And it might be multiple, and then be like, okay, I could turn this guy into a Pro Bowler. But he had 4.5 sacks in college. Like, he just hasn't produced, and kind of have to wonder why. Like sometimes you'll see guys like not produce offensively, receivers because you have either bad quarterbacking or it's a system. I feel like an edge rusher in college should be able to get to the quarterback like at least somewhat consistently if they're super athletic like Stewart is. So I think he can go as high as 9 to the Saints. Feels like a Saints type of pick. Like they always take these edge rushers with high upside, like Marcus Davenport comes to mind. Like they even traded up for him. But I think that Stewart is definitely of all the 32 prospects in the first round, I think Stewart would probably be the biggest bust.
Nice. Who are some of your favorite day 2 or day 3 prospects? Just your favorite.
I have a couple. One on offense, one on defense. So on offense, Caleb Rogers, the guard from Texas Tech. I think he's just a phenomenal athlete. He's so agile. It just is the testing numbers are off the charts. And I don't know why like he's going so late in some mock drafts. I've seen him go like round 4, round 5. I think he's a second round prospect. I have him in the second round of my mock. But I think he can go a little bit later. If he falls out of the second day, I think he'd just be a phenomenal pick for any team. And then defensively, Tommy Hill, the cornerback from Nebraska, he's long, he's athletic, he's really instinctive. I think that like he has everything except for the durability. Like he's only played, I think, 1,000 or so snaps throughout his collegiate careers because he's dealt with injuries. But I kind of think back to another cornerback prospect we saw, like Derek Stingley. Everyone, when he came into the NFL, everyone's like, oh, this guy is so injured all the time at LSU. Like, can he stay healthy? Well, he played every game last year. So, once these guys get to an NFL facility, like a training facility, and they get on this new regimen, like they can improve medically. And like thinking back even longer back before, Fred Taylor, who was known as Fragile Fred, the running back for the Jaguars, he would always get hurt, and then he'd have this 3 or 4 year stretch where he didn't miss a game. So injuries can turn around, and I don't think there's really anything that suggests that this is going to be a long term. It's not like he's had like major massive injuries. Like he had the plantar fascia last year. Like you can get over that. So he's another guy I think I would put in like round 2 or round 3 if I were drafting, but he's probably going to go in like round 4 or so. But yeah, those 2 guys are guys who come to mind for me.
Nice.
All right. Once again, we got Walt from WalterFootball.com. Check him out. Every year he's here. Hopefully he comes back next year. One more for you. Who's a guy that has the not predicting that he will, but who's got a chance of just falling and everybody's just like, what the hell? Why is this guy not drafted?
Well, I mean, I don't know if Shedeur Sanders qualifies, but I mean, he
qualifies.
Yeah, I mean, he could definitely fall, and it's so weird to me because he's I don't view him as a prospect with high upside. Like he doesn't have like an amazing arm or anything, and he doesn't have like an amazing mobility. He can move around, but he can't scramble like Cam Ward does. So I think he's definitely in for a fall. I think he's going to go in the 20s. But if he falls into round 2, and all the scouts were right about that, then it wouldn't surprise me. Although I would take him earlier. I like him definitely more than Kenny Pickett. I thought that was a horrendous pick that the Steelers made, even at the time. Like they only took him because he went to Pitt. It's like because they didn't want to pass on another pick quarterback, so they passed on Dan Marino. Just like so stupid. So
I get the feeling you don't have a Kenny Pickett jersey.
Yeah, I don't know.
I should get one. I'll wear one next year for you guys. So
I appreciate that.
But the problem is, like, I didn't know which team. The Steelers, Browns, Eagles. You got to pick one, I guess. But no, I think Sanders is definitely in for a fall, and people who haven't been paying attention to it, like who still suspect that he's going to go in the top 5. Like I go on Twitter all the time and or X, I guess, all the time, and I try to see like what other people are saying, especially like when it comes to like visits and stuff like that. But I saw like because the Giants just worked out Shedeur Sanders, and like some Giants beat writers arguing like, oh, they might still take Shedeur at 3, and I'm like, this is for second round. This is not for 3. So if there are people who still believe he's going to go in the top 5, I think they're going to be shocked to see him fall into potentially in the second round. But like I said, I think he's going to go into the 20s.
Sweet.
Boom. Vikings got 4 picks. 4 picks. When the draft is over and done, will they have more?
I'd have to think so. Yeah, we talked about before how they have a loaded roster, and I think they have to understand that. I mean, they went 14-3 last year with Christian Darrisaw out for half the year and Sam Darnold quarterbacking them, and I think they'd have to like McCarthy more. Obviously, they do, because if they didn't, they'd re-sign Darnold. So they like McCarthy more, and Darrisaw is going to be healthy. And I love the additions they made on the offensive line with Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. I think they the potential to have the best offensive line in the NFL, even with like one weakness at guard. I think that with all these needs taken care of and like the roster loaded, like it makes sense to move down, get picks, not just more for this year, but for next year as well. Just kind of like do what the Eagles did. Like the Eagles bolstered their offensive line and added so much talent everywhere. They're like, oh, we should just trade down all the time. And so I feel like Minnesota is kind of like in that territory, and given their lack of picks, it just makes sense to trade down anyway. So I kind of be a little bit surprised that they drafted at 24. I think they moved down once, maybe even out of the first round for maybe with the team that's going to draft Shedeur.
Yeah. Walter just dropping draft knowledge all over us.
And a Viking hype guy too.
Yeah, I think deep down, I think you might bleed purple.
You know what? I have been accused of being a Viking hater so many times, because even last year when they were 14-3, I threw cold water on them. I was like, Darisaw's
Rude.
out. I know they signed Karen Robinson. They're just not the same without Darisaw. And I think they might lose in the first round. Like I had on my show on YouTube, it's called the WalterFootball.com After Dark Show. Like I had some Vikings fans on there just comment, but like, why do you hate the Vikings so much? This year, as Michael Scott once said, the turntables have turned. I like the Vikings a lot this year. I'm the biggest hype guy outside of Minnesota. So
we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, obviously your mock drafts are fantastic. Your fantasy stuff is great. Deep down, I think I like your free agent signing grades the best.
Yes, those are my favorite too.
Freaking ruthless. If you don't like it, that is an F, and it is in red, and it's beautiful.
It's a million. It's a million. It's not just an F. It's a million.
Yep. No punches are held there.
Yeah, I can only imagine the comments you get. I'm sure they're very entertaining
all the time. I've been accused of hating all 32 teams in the league. So
that means you're doing it right. You're not biased. Right. You hate them all.
Exactly. Right. I've been accused of loving all 32 teams. So
there you go.
But I do love Minnesota this year. So like I said, go Vikes.
All right, Walter. As always, fantastic. What do you do on draft day? You just article after article, or what?
Same as free agency grades. Grade all the draft picks. It's cool. On one hand, it's cool that you get the picks ahead of time on Twitter because you don't have to look. And if I weren't doing this professionally, I would hate tip picks. I'd just stay off Twitter. But it's so convenient for me because I can get the write up done ahead of time, and as soon as Goodell announces it, I can just go click, and then it's just up like within seconds. So I grade every single pick. I grade every trade too, done in the draft. So we'll have all that. We'll have round 2 and 3 remocks, and then round 4 and 5 remocks ahead of Friday and Saturday, respectively. So yeah, tons of content on the site. Charlie has his stuff as well. 2026 NFL mock drafts too that are going to be updated right away too.
Boom. Damn. Yep, hit him up. You will definitely know if Walter approves or disapproves of the pick. Walt, man, it was great having you. Appreciate everybody. Check them out. They do great work over there.
Thanks so much, guys. I'm going to go order my Pickett jersey now.
All right, do it.